Okay, hello everyone. Welcome to tonight's episode. Before giving this episode, uh, I had an experience in my inner realms that really inspired me to talk about this idea of a command given to the universal sector. Where to begin? I want you to wonder about your life so far, whoever you are listening, and wonder how many moments you have experienced events that have taken place within you, not without you. And how many times those events were, in some sense, uh, were moving, were movements. So I can tell you that before giving this talk here tonight, guys, I think my voice should be audible. Anyways, I don't know. I just hope the listeners can hear me. Hopefully there isn't any audio difficulties. But anyways, so sometimes an event can take place. We can say a mind event, a subjective event that really has nothing to do with the outer position of the person. What that means is you could be in the middle of like cooking food and suddenly in the middle of it wonder about, Einstein's general relativity. You know, uh, you can do various things in the middle. Yeah, I'm just saying that it's an event that takes place in the inner realms. Now, what the vision was, what the experience was, I tend to say in these talks that the logos early on in my work communicated to me, in some sense, that you shouldn't see a face to the unknown, that you shouldn't get attached to a face in the unknown, because if you do, your access to the unknown becomes in accordance to that face. So I'll give you an example. Imagine you're a person your whole life you're worshiping Vishnu. That's a god in India, okay? Let's say you're worshiping Vishnu your whole life. After this life, because your relationship was the unknown with the unknown was Vishnu, was the form and shape of that god. In some sense, afterwards, when you actually actualize, when you enter the unknown, the only form you have, given the unknown, is the deity. So you will see the deity afterwards. That means if your attention, whatever your attention has been on, let's say this is I'm just saying it for the sake of the joke, and I'm sorry if this is gonna sound rude, but it's like if your whole life you've been focused on, your attention's been on sex, you might be fucked in that. I'm so sorry. I'm sorry. That was a very usually uh, uh, but the idea. Excuse me again uh, for that abrupt joke, but really, in the Bhagavad Gita, it says it as well, that any deity, any agency, any sort of relationship with a form. That means if you're personifying the unknown, that personification is going to handle you at the end of this life. You can say in the Bhagavad Gita, this is suggested because the Bhagavad Gita is an ancient Vedic book, and the point of it is that if you, however, in this life, you treat the unknown as an absolute, you will meet the absolute. You know, I can tell you I was sitting down in my inner realms, a simultaneous subjective event took place. When I speak, for example, or when I look at myself in the mirror in the outer realms, the nature of my own comfort with myself is very different. I can tell you that in front of my eyes there's a conditional self. Behind my eyes, I treat it as an unconditional presence. So, from the authority of my own unconditional presence in my inner realms, what inspired the vision of this talk was I gave a command. And I have done this, I don't know, maybe a few times in this lifetime so far. There's certain moments where I feel my eyes have become non-dual, and the voice is the voice of the moment, as if the personality was never in the room. And so, what was that command? You know, this is a very unique episode because I'm trying to share, really zoom in on the details of an inner realm experience. But I have thrown geometrical shapes into the sky in my inner realms. I can tell you that. But the command, I would say for tonight, it was as if it was the rage of a heart. You know, this might be a bit embarrassing to share, but I don't know. There's moments where sometimes before I give these talks, I sit down, and I mean, this episode is a bit different than the other ones because of the intensity of the inner realm experience. But sometimes I sit, and if I don't do anything, my mind plays a tune. You can say the rhythms of my mind take me to a position where, you know how you feel when you hear beautiful music? It's like you don't see anything. Like when someone hears beautiful music, they don't see the music. You don't see it. It just makes the whole moment shift in accordance to the next sound that enters the room. You know, imagine you're listening to someone play a violin solo, piano solo. It's as if you are in the silence. Each noise adds a sort of meaning, a sort of implication to the moment. I honestly feel headphones have given us access to a mini paradise. You know, a person can be in the middle of whatever activity. They could just put on headphones, hear their favorite song, and then it's as if their energy and their activity goes on a different current. Like how many people go to the gym and they listen to music, you know? How many people run listening to music? It's as if it's like resonating at the current, at the rhythm of it. It's like the music uh, makes the outer realm dance differently in your mind. But anyways, I'm trying to say that the experience was like music, and sometimes when a person hears a beautiful uh, piece of music, it leads to a vision. You know, it leads to an inner realm occurrence. Now, that inner realm occurrence can make a person cry. That's the embarrassing. That's the embarrassing part. You could be like a grown man, you know, hear some beautiful music and just like your eyes tear up, you know. To directly share the vision, I gave a command to the universal sector to authorize all advanced communicators. Oh world, bless yourself. Excuse me. Just a calling, a command, and instruction to all advanced communicators, uh, galactic public servants, whatever kind of creaturehood and energetic positioning there is, I have concluded that the human civilization and its advancement is the ultimate. It's the ultimate. The past lives for the future. And that was it pretty much. In my inner realm, I felt I shouted at the universe for assistance. And it's strange, you know, because on some level, this is energy's world. That means we may even treat ourselves as energetic beings, but really, our energetic existence is not all of it. There are times where, when I make something important for myself, I increase my energy levels automatically. Or there are times where, I don't know, it's like one can say even thinking is strangely self-speech. I believe it was Sam Harris. And it wasn't just Sam Harris. Many people have spoken about how what we are considering thinking, everybody is told to think, you know? You know, when a person does something wrong, you say, what were you thinking? You know? And it seems that we have built a world where thinking is the king, where thought is royalty. And it's a shame, because the eyes of experience surpass conception. You know, when I say a command, these are inner realm visions. What does that mean? Just like how my words are becoming a sort of image, hopefully, for the listener in their mind. That means I honestly don't know how people can listen to what I'm saying unless they perceive it like a film. It's like energy displays itself in bursts. That's really what the command felt. It felt like an energetic expression. It could be that we are all talking about life, we're all trying to articulate it. The human being is born and enters the educational system and is most instantly told to read, speak, and write. And so, you know, it feels like we're trying to understand ourselves like robots, but we can never be like robots. Irrationality, spontaneity, the emotional dimension, all of this kind of makes the idea of perfection impossible. And so, if you can't get perfection, what do you get? You get balance. Balance is like, you can say, right underneath perfection. If you can't try perfection, at least try balance. If you can't be balanced, then trust whatever moment you're in, and that trust eventually turns into balance. Because I don't know how somebody can trust this world and still function, and excuse me, not trust this world and function in. It is one of the most mind-boggling things for me. You know, that means either. Either the person feels comfortable in their skin or they feel they are not their skin. Or very rare, we can say, there are people who, after they are comfortable with their skin, being in their skin, being a biological body, afterwards they can find comfort with what is beyond biology, which in Vedic thought you would say antarloka, the in-between realm. And this in-between realm is a suggestion of where the echoes of life go. You know, sometimes we have a view that there's the idea of ghosts, for example. But it could be that they are, technically, there is no such thing as a ghost. There is just a mental field where none of our memories have ever faded, where every moment exists, you know? Think of it as two sides of a coin. On one side of a coin, things are designed to be temporary. On the other side of the coin, things are designed to last. That means on this side of the coin, you know, it's as if like the whole purpose of continuity is not biological. An object doesn't have an opinion on what happens to it. You know, therefore we have to consider that we're more than an object simply because we have said objects are inanimate. Now we're saying we're certain unique objects with potential. I find that's what a cell is. You know, it's and so what this gene does is that this gene self-replicates, and pretty much we copy paste ourselves into greater levels of complex creaturehood. You know. So right now it's very unique because if I don't treat the subject, you're hearing just sounds from a bunch of cells moving in the void. But if I choose to entertain the subjective existence, well, no, then you're listening to someone speaking, a person, you know, named Amin, using the online alias Mr.Within. So you see, when the subjects come in, we are no longer just inanimate. So if we want to live as subjects, we can't be materialists. Yet we have built a world that seems to be only tolerating materialism, and so many dimensions of the unknown intelligence that the human being is not being accounted for simply because we're choosing not to see. That means, you know what's worse than not being around the burning house to be able to help, you know, help the fire go out. You know, what's worse than you know, not being around, let's say, somewhere where you could have helped, is being somewhere where you can help and not helping. That means it's like there is something. I think it's very similar to the sympathy resonance of the human being. You know, just like what is it? The golden rule is pretty much sympathy, human sympathy. If you have human sympathy, you care for your neighbors. If you don't have human sympathy, you don't care for the human race. You might as well be either not from this world or you never were in it. Let me tell you, it is so easy to be cruel to this world. It's very easy to disown, pretty much. Because the attention takes it as a sort of responsibility to go to things. What that means is, I can tell you, this is one thing where uh, it's my kind of my personality's ultimate apology that there has been moments where I have been impatient and there has been moments where I have disowned the reality engaged. And when I say disown, guys, this is so key because in mysticism, technically, you are disowning what you have been conditioned to try to own your whole life. It's as if, like, imagine somebody gave you a basket and your whole life you were told, put stuff in it, put stuff in it, put stuff in it. And your whole life you're like, da, 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 wherever you're going, you know? Wherever you're going, you're just filling it up, this basket. And this basket eventually gets full and it gets heavy. And the person's like, why? I was told to fill up this basket. Why is it so heavy? You know, why am I in this situation? You know? And then what happens is somebody comes and tells you after eons, hey, maybe put the basket down. Maybe those people who said you got to fill up the basket, they only followed their ancestors and nobody checked what the ancestors said. You know? That's why we have minds, I find. Because really, if we were to follow our ancestors exactly, we would be them. Why are we us? You know, that means anybody who's following a system, I'm not saying um, not have faith in a truth that is experientially relevant to you. I'm saying that if we are alive, then there is a reason. You know, there's a reason. Like, how hilarious is it? It's like the genetics continued, so we behave like our ancestors. Our ancestors in their graves are like, oh my god, are the modern generations copying us? What the fuck? So, um, Blank, Wolf, and Jacqueline, welcome to the chat section, guys. If there's any questions, commentary, feel free to share. Pretty much the chat section is treated as the elder scrolls of this talk. That means if, like, I don't know, hopefully thousands of years from now, this talk is somehow accessible, you know, what shall be carved on the walls of this talk? So, anyways. Attention is really like a sword. I would say it's like a sword and shield. When attention is like a sword, where it's pointed to can bring intensity. Imagine a child who's got its hand caught in the cookie jar, and the eyes of the person around. You know, imagine the eyes of, like, the parents being like, what are you doing? Are you eating a cookie right now, kid? And the kid's like, yeah, I thought I was bored. I thought I had freedom. It's like, no, you can't eat cookies, right? You know? And so it's kind of strange, you know? This life is strange. We're designed to express. We're actually designed to... Life is designed where at the beginning I would say you are oblivious. At the end of it, you're serious. At the beginning, you're playful. At the end, it becomes serious. Now, if we can maintain a system where we are playful at the end, I would say that is one of those strange gifts that I think from somewhere else, I bring with me, where it's an access to, like, this idea of disowning. I'm telling you, it leaves you in the neutral. So think of it this way. Think of it, a person can look at themselves, look down on themselves. They can look up at themselves, or they can be in the neutral. They can be in the, I would say, they could stand beside the void. I honestly feel that's where I'm speaking from right now. I am not speaking as a object or a subject, but as an unknown witness right beside where the space of the life is. And it's remarkable. It's remarkable that this is how multidimensional this realm is, and how it has been in front of our eyes and behind it. You know, it's so fascinating. It's just like we have access to two modes of sight. How have we been oblivious of this? How have the eyes been able to keep the secret of the mind's eyes for so long? That means, just think about it. You could be a person in a dark room, yet you can still, by hearing sounds outside, get the visuals. Let's say you're in a, let's say you're sleeping, and you suddenly hear like a honk of a car, right? You have no visual perception, but just the sound activates in your inner realms the visuals. So technically, a person in a dark room can see. You can see. That means it's like, that's pretty much all the people on this planet. I commend any person who their senses are different and yet they continue. One of the most remarkable stories, I would say, I don't. This is something where I don't see a lot of uh, feminist groups discuss, but Helen Keller. I don't know how many people know who Helen Keller is, but Helen Keller was this girl who evidently was born deaf and blind. That she had some sort of inability to access her inner realms, couldn't make contact with the outer realms. And she had this genius teacher. Genius. I don't know who the teacher is. I don't know really who the teacher was, but that teacher they need to make a statue in all universities of Helen Keller's teacher. You know? There was something there where it was as if that was true multidimensionality. That means if you wanted to give a medal, and imagine, let's say, 400 years from now, there was a medal you could give to multidimensional explorers. It's like I would instantly, like, it's like I am telling you, some beings, they appear to us in the human story, yet they are not the human story. And it's remarkable. It's remarkable how a lot of life is Lego with language. We're just building Lego. You know, in my childhood, I would play with Lego, and you know, I haven't touched a Lego piece. I would say it was in like 20 years or so. But I'll tell you, there is something where I thought I stopped playing with Legos. Little did I know, every thought is a Lego piece. And there can be the precision of the gods, or there can be the flaw of man. And right now, I would say we don't have, like, you see, the word law, it's a very interesting word. Because you add an F in front of it, it becomes a flaw. To the sound of law, you add the, it becomes love. You know? Just the sound of the word. But it's not a perfect system, and it's not an imperfect system. And so that means that when you get supremely hopeless, you will see a bit of hope. When you become incredibly hopeful, you will see a bit of the hopeless. And believe it or not, this is okay. I will tell the audience of an experience I had. This was it was 2 years ago. And I had an experience. I was at this, long story short, it was, my state of consciousness was altered. And I can say I had ordered mushrooms on my pizza in that moment. And what the experience was this unknown presence. That means think of like you seeing the presence of like your family, your friends, you know, people, people you know, and then now imagine for the first time feeling an invisible presence in the room. And the intensity of this invisible presence to my psychology in that moment, in my inner realms, was so intense, my whole body froze. You know, it's like, imagine like you're a soldier in the military, in like the Navy SEALs or something, and the general commanding officer comes in and everybody is just frozen into like their position, you know? And it was that kind of position, and I felt that unknown presence playfully, as if like that was the imagery my mind was ready for in that moment. It was as if it told me at ease, you know? As if you keep your salute on and suddenly then you put your salute away. And really it was an experience of feeling comfortable with the invisible by the command of the invisible. Because that is man's greatest challenge. Everybody's freaking out about the invisible. We're visible creatures. Death is technically invisibility. That was a very unique inner realm experience. And all these inner realm experiences, whether it's a command coming from the self or whether it's a command coming from the world to the self, whether going from the self to the world or world to the self, it's just your inner realm. And I will tell you, this statement, it's just your inner realms, it's liberating. If you realize it is that simple. It's just the weather of another dimension, a lot of our thoughts throughout the day. And if the person can discriminate and not identify with the weather, there could be some powerful moments of perception. I would say there is no longer, ever since language has been found, I would say, like, personally, ever since discovering language, to be like, it was as if, think of someone looking at reality, someone being like, oh my god, other dimensions, that's so cool, you know? And then the person goes to see the other dimensions, then they see there is something still incomplete, and then you realize language is the main thing. I would say language is reality to the mind. That means, I think this is why there is even anger. Let's say somebody is person A is in the park and person B comes and says, person A, how dare you be the first letter of the alphabet? You know? It's like, you don't deserve to be the first letter of the alphabet. And person A hears this, and check this out, look at what happens. The moment person B says to person A, you don't deserve to be the first person in the alphabet, person A, in order to understand person B, has to allow what person B said to be real. And so, if the person animates what person B is saying, you know, if person A animates that, and person A lets the image that has come from outside of the mind, you know, let's say a violent image from outside of the mind come to the inside of the mind, then it's like pretty much either you move your mind or the world moves your mind, you know? And very quickly the species has to discriminate between self-suffering, self-imposed suffering, subjective suffering, and objective suffering. Objective suffering is very real, and for that we need warriors. We need literally intellectual warriors in our civilization, human beings, to be like, okay, I've had it. You know, this is enough. Enough poverty. Enough seeing the species in its weakness. You know, what would the strength of the civilization be? It's like, does nobody wonder about this? You know? And it's hilarious because for me, it's like world leaders are at a position where they don't realize. Like, honestly, for me, it's just like, I can't believe how much we have forgotten human nature as the ultimate priority of all political systems. There's a saying, George Baton says this, I don't know who he is really, but I saw the quote somewhere online. I feel he may be a military man, but he says, you must serve before you can command. This sentence is so crucial. You must experience, you must serve as an individual conscious self before you can say you can actually truly be one. And you must serve as a collective unconscious being before you can truly actually be one. And when you are collective, there is no teacher. There's nothing wrong. You reach the state where of no mistakes and no success. You reach the paradise that doesn't have content and can't be a pair of dice anymore. It can't just be change or chance. And you know, I gave this command in my inner realms, and I guess in my talk, in this talk, I guess it's the outer realm side of the coin. My ultimate vision is that I know everybody is temporary. I know everybody experiences every day happening once. I know that every human being is in putting on a theatrical performance in the void. And I know every human being, deep down, whether they know it or not, there's a level of the psychology that is reacting chaotically into the void, to the emptiness. That means it's okay. We're in a weird place. The planet has, the species, members of the species should have the maturity to realize the meaninglessness, you know, of the objective landscape. Subjects are where meaning comes from, so you can't say a subject is meaningless. Literally, subjects give meaning to objects. So if you treat yourself as a subject, you can have endless purposes in life. If you treat yourself as an object, you only have one purpose, one limited purpose. That means I could think about like technology advancing in Silicon Valley, but I'm just some guy sitting in Toronto. You know, I could think of like sky cities, you know, 600 years from now, but I'm just a guy sitting in Toronto. I could totally be collective absolute being right now, but I'm just a guy sitting in Toronto. And that was the vision, to just care for what's here while we're here. Like seriously, I I I dare say it. You know, anybody who can challenge me, you know, that sentence I feel is the ultimate. It's an opportunity. Life is neither good, neither bad. It's an opportunity. Life is not about suffering or joy. It's an opportunity. And so an opportunity is where the pilot finds himself. Where it could be that you could come and speak, and most people, the way I would say the educational system teaches them is spoon feeding concepts, and it's so stupid, you know. The strategy is so stupid. If you just point the, like, literally there should be history, should be history and language studies, and yeah, these two should be um, like all of knowledge should be taught through history. Every teacher should come and actually explain the context, you know. But I would tell you, it's when you relay information, the passion is dead sometimes, unless you uh, reanimate it. In the chat section, Jacqueline says ESP. Yeah, ESP, I've heard of it. I wouldn't say it's ESP. ESP is like it's like ESP is like um, it's eating breadcrumbs. ESP's ability, like the like here, let me tell you what I mean. It's eating breadcrumbs. There is no multidimensional honor in the manipulation of something in a singular dimension. Either you're mature enough to realize it's a vast place, no small thing can be the ultimate, or you play God games with the dimension and you get locked into the simulation. It's honestly one of the hardest things. Right now, we don't know. The mainstream doesn't know if we are truly multidimensional or not. You know, it's like it's like a truth we've kind of like couldn't tell ourselves. You know, it's like it's like this, it's like the human psyche has been addicted to language devouring. It's kind of, it's a bit scary. It's scary in the sense that there are so many creatures on this planet, and they are each in their own bubbles. And it's like, what's the strategy? It's so strange. It's so strange, the setting, that I feel ashamed to have ever accepted a normality, honestly. I feel ashamed any person in this planet uh, I called strange or weird. Why? Because the world is 1,000 times stranger and weirder than anything in it. There's black holes in space, and we think we know knowledge. There's literally a giant black hole. There's a giant part of like our whole universe missing, and we're like, yeah, we got this. We know what we're doing. Yeah. Can you imagine coming home? Imagine you came home, and literally there was a small black hole right on like I don't know, your kitchen wall, like a black hole. You came home and you saw a black hole in your house, and you were like, what the? And it's like, imagine. It's like, what would you do? Now imagine you are a universal being and you've noticed a black hole in your universe. That's technically it's in our cosmic house. The metaphor is real if we see the cosmos as our house. And so what does the black hole mean? The black hole means you can try mankind. But outer realm knowledge has its limits. Inner realm knowledge is endless, and really it's like the body is given a command to sustain, to contain itself. And I feel that the mind is releasing itself. If I was to look at really what behavior is, it's expression from the inner realms to the outer realms. It's trying. All behavior is attempts. New, never before witnessed attempts. That means when a person, like, or right now, whoever's listening, just whoever's alive now, it's like there has been no human being like you ever on this planet. And what would happen if human psychology cared for the overall victory? That means there's some people who they just want to win an easy battle and they just want to stop. And there are those who are like, what's the point of winning a battle when the whole war is left? And so man, when I say war and this battle is with the known and the unknown. We are known creatures in an unknown battlefield. And exploration and everything we have done is kind of trying to conquer, trying to expand the kingdoms of man's vision. And it's strange because sometimes you can't. When I say you can't, that means I've experienced certain moments where whatever I do, it's as if the moment has already made up its mind. There is moments like that too, That means I would say the purpose of life is maybe unknown observation of known phenomena. Ad infinitum. We are born to know that from the beginning we were unknown. And without the unknown, I don't know how people can even fathom multidimensionality. Unknown is the veil. just to have it said. Is that all human beings can continue on their path of self-enlightenment while simultaneously serving the development of an advanced civilization. And if we can make it in a way where, honestly, think about it, a civilization that's fun, not a civilization that's freaking out all the time. You know, a civilization that you can't wait to wake up because there is so much advancement happening every day. Imagine you turn on the news and it's like this. Okay, so I reconnected the Wi-Fi. Hopefully, uh, the Wi-Fi gods will bless this talk. Anyways, oh guys, it's then I'll tell you it's my Wi-Fi. It's definitely my Wi-Fi then. So relaxation. Uh, yeah, relaxation time. Don't worry, man. It's my Wi-Fi. It's literally the location I'm in. It has to do with that. So I don't know if people like to help the Patreon. There could be better Wi-Fi. That joke. I'm joking, guys. Only join the Patreon if you're intuitively driven. So, anyways, I just want to say it's the archaic revival of the unknown. The archaic revival is a term used by Terence McKenna. It's the resurfacing of, I would say, the spirit of the world in some sense. I feel we are treating individuals as alive because we have noticed and pinpointed consciousness and projection of life as the brain. But if we, for a moment, entertain that the body is an antenna, and when we look at life, there's so many different species, different life forms, just different plants, different minerals, different elements in the realm. That means it's like a coexistence. So that means we should, in some sense, never, in some sense, really, individual desire shouldn't make sense with how we should say the story of the world. For me, it's like you can see a person, let's say that we have two people, okay? Two, the same person, but in two parallel universes. In one parallel reality, the person is doing everything efficiently, incredible efficiency, like bah, 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 bah. Like literally, like you know, as if they have lived their life before they even opened their eyes. You know, they have already lived their life. And let's say on the other, in the other parallel universe, we have a person who's just super selfish and just like, yeah, it's like just filling their mind with the pastries of their desires, you know. And what happens with the appetite of their desire? And imagine we see this. We see on some level they're both objects moving around in the moment. So if we were materialists, we would be like, yeah, both of them lived a good life. It didn't matter if it was efficient or if it was inefficient or efficient. It didn't matter. It doesn't. If when you're an object, why does it matter if you're selfish or selfless? Like who gives a, like how can an object give a shit? You know. I never thought I'd need pranayama practices, because of laughter. What's with all these objects not giving a shit? Sorry, guys, I laughed myself out of my own rhythm. I feel it's just multidimensional maturity. The species, it's like a being that has only been living in one dimension, suddenly being like, no way, there's so many other ways I can be away, Jacqueline, I see what you're saying. Yeah, we have three minds: the gut, heart, brain. So, yeah, it depends. It depends how many rooms you're in. If right, like to a parallel universe theorist, multiverse theorist, you have as many brains as you like. Because there's so many parallel universes that there's so many different variations of just even one brain or whatever amount of brains you have. But it's a very interesting point. There was a sage named Sri Ramana Maharshi. Sri Ramana Maharshi, he said that we have like two kinds of minds. I wouldn't say he said we have two kinds of mind. He said you can, like, like, let's say life is a force, and this force is being animated from the brain, but Sri Ramana Maharshi also saw it as the heart. You know, and me personally, there's been times where I've wondered, like, look at the body. We have two hands, but we have one heart. Could it be that we have a heart in another dimension? You know. So there is this view, even in certain ancient mystical thought, there was this idea that the heart had gates in it, you know, and once the gates of the heart were open, the person would experience universal moments, so their wisdom would be in accordance to, like, it's like a film. It's like you've seen a film, so then you know what happens, you know? But if you just see a photo, you don't know what the shape and form in that photo is going to do. There is this view. Some schools of thought have this view that memory is even on a cellular level. That means like when your elbow. I mean, it's very complex because the body changes. The genetics are technically an invisible outline that the cells are fulfilling constantly. Actually, genetics is the command, guys. Genetics is literally like command. Like, be a creature forever, go. And the genetics, it's like, okay, what do I do? You know? I would say, think of it this way. You know how a young child at home, imagine like being a young child and playing at home, and your parents are like, I don't know, discussing, I don't know, the family business or something, you know? Okay, imagine it's something like that, and you're a young kid just running around, too young to even know what the word business means. You know, you're just running around, and so you just know something bigger is going on that you don't understand. And it honestly, with the higher dimensional, with all those, I'm telling this to all theosophists, you know, all those people who have a multidimensional eye for things. We are like the children of greater universal activity. And really, we are like in existence's cradle. Or I would say just like children in a sandbox. But the only difference is we are made of sand too. You know, the body is made of sand. And so imagine the parents are all out waiting, you know, outside looking at all the kids from at the park playing, you know, in the sandbox. You know, it's like this pleasant moment. And at the end, the parents are like, "All right, kids, every kid's parents, every soul's source takes back what it extended forth here in this plane of existence." So all the parents are like, "All right, kids, time to go home." And all the kids who were in the sandbox of a planet, they step out of the sandbox and they just see how there will be others who will come and play in the sandbox. That means there was a time where it bothered me when people walked on my dreams. But then I realized that's history. That's what history does. We are just performances. And if we can realize this is really where I can tell you, you can walk in the desolate fields of the intellect, but eventually you'll realize, ignoring signs of love, but you'll realize there's a reason why love was, I'm telling you, it's not just a heart-shaped balloon. Love is higher dimensional relationship with a living universe. It's trust. Trust is a multidimensional quality. It's not a, it's, you can't trust the dual because you always see the counter side. And the mind, think of it. If you have an ability to, let's say, visualize, I don't know, let's say you're going shopping and you walk past a store and you, let's say you open your wallet and your wallet says, just close it, bro, just close it. And you're walking, you know, you've been scolded by your wallet, you know, you know, and some people experience existential emptiness that way. But imagine you pass all these stores, okay, and so you see all all this stuff, and your mind can totally see yourself having that, I don't know, tribal totem thing, you know, but your mind can see the object, or you can see a clothing, and it can see yourself wearing it, how it looks like. It's as if like, technically, if you're a good visualizer, you know, you don't, you know, if your visualization settings are properly adjusted, you don't need a mirror as a person. You can actually perceive, you know, yourself from outside of yourself. Just like a person closing their eyes and from their ears they recreate. So I'm just saying the mind can see, like, let's say you walk past the black jacket and you could totally see yourself wearing this black jacket, right? So I'm saying, what is preventing us from walking past a picture of an alien and not suddenly thinking we're an alien? We can the mind, that's the uniqueness of subjective our subjective life. Its strange potential to be anything. So technically, it's like creaturehood is an Iron Man suit for higher dimensions. And the theme of surveillance, I was saying some things about that. That surveillance of an efficient civilization, it will be care. That means the young child has to be under the surveillance of the parent because the child doesn't know how to interpret the realm yet, for example. You know, that means there was this whole idea of guidance, and guidance was necessary until the person could guide themselves, you know? And so many levels of life, there is no, and people are different, of course. I mean, if I bring karma into the discussion, then there is no fluffiness to the outcome. I would say there are different sorts of wealth in this world. You know, there is a sort of outer realm wealth. And I would say what is more important than the outer realm wealth is the inner realm wealth, which is your relationship with the universe before anyone else. If one has some sort of stability or has found some way through playing their part in nature to become nature's ally, I would say that deserves a slow hand clap. It's oh my god. It's the era of advanced communication. From language worshippers, we shall become advanced communicators. The advanced communicator is the advanced communication of the universal sector. All those people who have been acquainted with non-duality, presence, flow, even a rock star. Let's say you are like a rock star on stage, and in that zone, in that moment, in that single moment where like the consciousness of the audience and the consciousness of the performer are singular, and it's like the moment belongs to everybody, you know. So I would say it doesn't matter who you are. It's like if you have just experienced anything beyond the individual human framework, whatever it is, even, and it's more than image to you, that technically means you have noticed how the planet is living while you are. And so I would say love is like listening. There's a talk I plan to give in the future where I have this view that actually the ears were here before the eyes. I feel the ears were an evolutionary attempt. That means that if we really go far back, and even though we have this view that genetics evolves, like genetics steps out into the world, sprouts into the world, you know, like a seed, like its design is already, like the gene is the DNA is the architect of the form of the creature. I don't know how to say it. It's just that when we try to be an individual, we notice the collective. If right now you have the experience of the collective, the individual becomes your purpose. You know, imagine right now we had gone 120 years into the future. You know, it was the year 2140. And for the first time, a human cyberspace simulation had been set up, and we had found a way that the safest way to connect the human brain to technology is actually through waves. I honestly feel no human being should allow intrusion into the skin, the brain, you know? And it may be the case that that's a way, but I will tell you, I am sure there's a way where the brain is so conveniently designed to generate waves. So I feel literally a person is going to go stand under something, and the waves that that thing sends, you know, is somehow going to plug them into a cyberspace simulation. So imagine the year 2140. For the first time, we've had a Guinness World Record moment where 100,000. Okay, I'm back, guys. So, yeah, I was saying 120 years. So pretty much, just I'm just saying, imagine we experience connecting our minds to a collective mind, and imagine for a long time you experience being a collective being. Eventually, you get drawn to the individual. So pretty much, if you go towards collectivity, you feel like an individual. If you go towards individualism, you feel like a collective. And I feel this is sort of yin yang balance that must be preserved regardless. Can you really just, for a moment, whoever you are, wonder what advanced multidimensional civilization would look like? What would multidimensional freedom look like? What would the universal rights of a multidimensional being be? Can you imagine? Can you imagine we realize there's multiple dimensions and then we find a way to journey between them, and imagine on the passports in the future it would say which dimension you were born. There's this story where Buddha goes to this bewildered emperor or some official, some important person. And Buddha, they call Buddha, and this important person, he's getting haunted by his past. And so the person can't sleep, and it's like you could say he's like this warrior back in the day hitting the air. He's seeing, you know, what's the term? Like ghosts of of violent events from his past or something. And so what happens is that Buddha tells this emperor to look at the pond. There was like this lake, you know, and the mirage, the reflection of the moon on the lake was moving. So it was making the move as if it's moving. And so Buddha looks at this official, this person, important person, and he says, hey, listen, you're suffering, you thinking you have ghosts and all this messed up stuff you think you are in. It's literally you not realizing the moon is perfectly smooth. It's the reflection in the water that's making you think it's not. Do you see? So you suddenly realize as if there is a presence to nature, that everything has been okay from the beginning. You know, it's just nature. You know, it's like, oh, what was that show? It was like Dennis the Menace, something like that. Where I don't know. I think there was some person who was like, oh, Dennis or something. Like, you know, and imagine, it's like, I don't know. It's like, let's say your kids break something and you're like, oh, they're kids. What can you do? Do you know? And it's like, oh, you know, we're temporary beings in nature. What can you do? And I feel the higher dimensions, what is the way that a child, let's say, imagine yourself when you were a kid and you were asking for something as a kid, do you know? And so it's like when the lesser dimensions act like the higher dimensions like it. It's like when a child acts more mature than their age, everybody in the room gets like, whoa, you know? And it's very fascinating that the mind is a development of just exposure. What you see, you become. Because the mind has no other purpose than to use the senses it gets. It's like, why are we like a vacuum, like pulling in all these senses towards this central moment where attention and subject and location are there. So that person who Buddha helped suddenly realized, oh my God, my suffering is me thinking the actual moon is the lake. And people look at it and they're like, you know, how could this world be so cruel? You know, how could this world be like this? And honestly, I mean, think about it. If the world was perfect, there was nothing to do. If everything was done, there would be nothing to do. So we should be grateful, first of all, that there is something that hasn't been done yet on this planet. Now, the greatest thing that hasn't been done yet is that advanced vision. And that advanced vision, we right now can't build an advanced civilization, but we can plant the seeds and just keep watering it until the next generations come, you know? And when an important activity for the species is done, that's true unity. You know, it's like, I don't know how people can get to know each other if they don't see similar things, or if they don't have a flexibility to let themselves change for a moment to see what other the inner verses of others are like. You know, that was the whole fascination for me of the idea of the advanced communicator, that it's as if like we mastered movement in the outer realms as an object, we mastered movement now as a subject in our inner realms. And so it would be so incredible, because I feel that language is a tool and the tool doesn't have a mind. So if knowledge is limited to sentence structure for you, sentence structures don't have a mind. You know, it's like a robot. A book is like, I don't say a book is a robot, but I'm saying like the way you read it is. So I am telling you that, like, just the nature of what reading is. But I'm just saying, like, dare to see who you would have been if you had listened to what you knew all along. I don't know how many people resonate with this idea I'm going to say, but I constantly have this feeling sometimes that when I was younger, I was way more enlightened to myself. I was way more liberated. I mean, the idea of enlightenment, it's not a concept. It means, are you aware where the light is? What is? And what you come to is the great scholar's unknown. This is what every person really had to do. It's like I think it's literally the counter response to a great wave of doubt. So imagine you've been living in a world in a certain way, then suddenly you're like, where am I? What is this whole thing? And from there, your mind has to, just by the effort of where the attention is going, has to reinvent the world, has to reinvent the wheel of karma. And that's how you, in some sense, wake yourself up from a sleeping world. That doubt leads to space being novelty's permission. Pretty much you gotta empty the cup and pour like something else in it. So think about it like, let's say you have, I don't know, let's say you have orange juice in half a cup, and you have in another cup, and that's filled with, I don't know, apple juice. Okay, let's be crazy here a little. So this one cup is half full, and it has apple juice, and the other cup is half full, and it has orange juice. Okay, and so it's literally like you taking one of these cups, pouring it into the other. First of all, the first cup that was keeping the duality there becomes empty. So you don't need that cup anymore. This tends to be like what our experience with the past is. It's like the past is like an empty cup. You already drank what was in it, So when you mix the orange juice and apple juice, first of all, there is no, it's like neither orange juice or apple juice. You're experiencing like the next generation of juice. So you're mixing this apple juice and orange juice, and you're thinking that it could be also that we're mixing apple juice and orange juice, and we're like, yeah, it's just this world we see. And technically, apple juice and orange juice from the beginning were maybe in a different. Okay, maybe apple juice and orange juice is a bad example. Let's say oil and water. Let's say you have a cup of oil and you have a half a cup of water, and you pour the oil comes up. Let's say you add honey. Somebody said honey in the chat section. Let's say you add honey to the water. The honey goes down, you know? So that's technically... I mean, they said don't play with your food. I don't know if they said don't play with your drink. I don't know if it's morally correct to use this juice metaphor. But pretty much, guys, the whole point of that metaphor was that objects and subjects are, you can say, meshed together to be us. And right now, I'm an object using subjects to communicate to you.
and the species has to somehow use just be its object level and subject level to build an advanced civilization. That's simply it. We gotta, just like how the caveman made fire from sticks and stones or something, like we have to make fire from objects and subjects. We have to build an advanced civilization. And I would say this is a sort of inner fire. I would say a fire of purpose. You know, it's like, what did human beings do? Because really, all of life is how you tell yourself a story. And now, the more real the story is, the more honor there is, the more actualized the whole moment becomes. There's a poet named Rumi. I'm going to read some quotes from him. Rumi is a Sufi mystic poet from 700 years ago. I personally think he's one of the most epic poets in history. And of course, like, this is a translation of his work, but I think the translation of his work is enough to get Rumi's message from. Rumi says, "Stop acting so small. You are the universe in ecstatic motion." Sorry, guys. My attention just went somewhere else. Okay, Rumi says, "Your heart knows the way. Run in that direction." Rumi says, "The moment you accept what troubles you've been given, the door will open." The poet Rumi says, "Whenever you are, wherever you are, and whatever you do, be in love." Rumi says, "We carry inside us the wonders we seek outside us." What an incredible quote. What an incredible quote. Excuse me. Rumi says, "These pains you feel are messengers. Listen to them." Rumi says, "You're not a drop in the ocean. You are the entire ocean in a drop." Rumi says, "I want to sing like the birds sing, not worrying about who hears or what they think." Rumi says, "Keep silent, because the world of silence is a vast fullness." Rumi says, "What hurts you blesses you. Darkness is your candle." Wow. Darkness is your candle. Because from darkness, all that's left is to see the light. I mean, once you've seen the darkness, it's like, what else is there left to see? So darkness is like the candle lighting the way to light. Rumi says, whenever they rebuild an old building, they must first of all destroy the old one. Rumi says, as you start to walk on the way appears. Rumi says, silence gives answers. Rumi says, let silence take you to the core of life. Rumi says, my soul is from elsewhere, I'm sure of that, and I intend to end up there. Rumi says, be like a tree and let the dead leaves drop. Rumi says, okay, guys, that quote means be like a tree and let the dead leaves drop. Let's say I see so many like videos on like celebrities, who have like, stress issues and whatever. And I'm telling you, the whole thing is like, in whatever you do in life, if you are not centered in yourself, you will get pushed and pulled. And to be centered in yourself, that means you have to realize what you are moving is you. And that it's like the tree. So right now there is like the real me, which has been watching everything that I have been so far. And then there is the me that is like wearing a jacket right now. Rumi says, it's your road and yours alone. Others may walk it with you, but no one can walk it for you. Rumi says, I just read that. And Rumi says, let silence be the art you practice. So that means pretty much observing yourself in silence. I would say we can say the subjective evolution began when the creature noticed silence. Yeah. I will definitely. Silence is definitely part of the puzzle of human intelligence. Rumi says, in the blackest of your moments, wait with no fear. That means in the harshest moments of your life, in the most chaos, because we have this view, there was chaos and then order, cosmos. The word cosmos is order. So Rumi is saying, in the most chaotic moments in your life, wait with no fear. And I feel that's an honest resonance. Literally, you counter fear with honest advancement. Simple, honest advancement. That's pretty much, I would say, the shield of the psyche in multidimensional landscapes. Rumi says, by God, when you see your beauty, you will be the idol of yourself. We don't have the time for that, guys. Rumi says, I should be suspicious of what I want. Rumi says, maybe you're searching among the branches for what only appears in the roots. Rumi says, what matters is how quickly you do what your soul directs. Wow. Never knew this quote existed. Multidimensionality will mean that everything has a side to it that hasn't been seen yet. What that means is like, really then the challenge becomes, how do 8 billion human beings trust each other to build something advanced, to design the most advanced thing? And The solution has to be that each individual, through their own conscious choice, has to choose to identify with the collective archetype. That means there should be a point where imagine like a child is born on this planet and the child is growing up and looks at the parents and like, parents, what the what is this world? What is this world that is happening? You know, what's happening in the world? And imagine all the parents in the world, they're looking at their children and they're like, everybody is an advanced communicator, son. And while we're all alive here for a little while, it's like the civilization has commanded that everybody attempt your most advanced effort. Let's see what happens. And so, you know what I mean? I'm constantly, and of course, I'm not saying this. The idea of the advanced civilization is always in the driver's seat when it comes to the importance of self-enlightenment. Do you know that means it's like really there can be this perfect counter argument to even what I'm saying right now, that you know, like, if we're multidimensional beings, why do we need to do anything in a certain dimension? And if we have that question, the best strategy to implement is to actually just go with the program until we have more information, you know? And it's not that information is going to help us, but information is just showing behavior of the universal sector. That means even beyond information, we should have an analysis of the realm. Wow, Rumi says the whole universe is contained within a single human being, you. Rumi says when the world pushes you to your knees, you're in the perfect position to pray. He pretty much means it in the archaic, he means it in the context that when life puts you in a moment where you feel you can't do anything, prayer is a way of at least one last honest expression before the show ends or whatnot. That honest expression is really what keeps you in the living realm. That means if I was to say one algorithm for health, it would be to live for life, and you will live for life. And you will live for life not as an immortal, but as the momentum of how far your eyes ran. Technically, walking on this earth feels like I'm on a treadmill. Treadmill in the middle of space. This planet is a treadmill. And when you access treadmill consciousness, oh man. It's just that, I mean, I don't know how many people know heliocentric and geocentric. Or there's even other terms for it where we tend to think that we are moving around the sun, but what is the sun moving around? It's just an incredibly slow treadmill, guys, this planet. It's just so slow we think it's not moving. It's like, imagine human beings, you know, they use the word stillness, and suddenly every sort of dimensional being in the cosmos starts laughing. I feel like our species is gonna be like the comedians of the universal sector. Do you know? You know? That's one unique gift we have, you know? Like if there was an alien that arrived on the planet, and let's say there was a moment in the future of alien contact, the leader of humanity is shaking hands with the leader of the aliens or whatever. Imagine in that moment, like like it should literally, we should all just be super cheerful, you know? And the aliens are gonna be like, "What's this noise these human beings are making?" And we're all just laughing, you know? You know? Or imagine, I think the first words that human beings should say to aliens should just be this. It should literally be I see it like some, like I could personally direct this, but if someone from the Wheelers wants to be a producer, but I'll tell you, like, imagine, imagine aliens coming down to Earth, and the leader and human beings are all silent, and suddenly the leader, a human leader, goes to the alien leader, and the first words ever exchanged. It's a moment in history like never before, you know. And the human leader just says, the human, the human leader just says, "You're late," and the alien is like, "What does that mean?" And we all start laughing, and the alien sees the human leader said, "You're late," and the whole species started laughing. And then this cheerful vibe of pretty much showing the aliens a film. I honestly feel like if aliens, like if we wanted to communicate to aliens, we had to make a film. Isn't that the best way to communicate with an alien? Show them films. Directors are gonna make alien communication perfect in the future. They're like, we don't know what kind of alphabet to use with this alien. It's like, show it a film, goddammit, show it. So what I'm trying to say is that let us have style, let us be advanced, let us breathe the air we deserve, and let us walk with a vision that, with our trust in a vision that never failed us. That's nature. That's my personal commander is nature. If I was a soldier in a battlefield, I will tell you nature is the ultimate voice. It surpasses gods and men. It surpasses truths and illusions. It is the life of your world, which you have been, you can say poetically, as a conscious being enlisted. What that means is that we enter this realm not empty handed, but through a sort of suit of accumulated vision. So what it is every person is born with, imagine, like, okay, imagine you wrote a story on a piece of paper, and imagine you folded it on a miniature version of the person. So literally, I would say higher dimensional narratives uh, are encapsulating us. We are inside the stories of minds that are that never had feet in a world. And so human beings are left in awe. That means, literally, it's like whether you're, it's pretty much two outcomes. It's either awe or it's awe, like divine awe. It's either like, oh man, we messed up, or like, oh my god, divine awe. We can choose to completely ignore human the responsibility of the human human mind for the collective unconscious. You know, it's like the ultimate command to the universal sector, it's in the word mankind. That means when human beings are kind to human beings, we are humankind. We suddenly start feeling a patriotism towards a global humanity, where it's like we're gonna prepare the civilization in case if aliens choose to show up. You know, we have to be that advanced. We have to be so advanced that any oddity in our universal sector can be used. Pretty much, we have to recycle the meaningless into meaning naturally. So, to end off this episode, to land this episode, first of all, thanks everyone for listening, as always. And really, the command is you're alive once, every day happens once. You can follow your highest joy or you can dwell in suffering. You can have various attitudes, but one thing, one important command is that because we have never seen the advanced potential of our species, now is the only way to attempt it. And if individuals start caring for advanced outcomes in front of their eyes, the inner realm will find the ability to compensate. It really has to do with what you want from the world that suggests your character and your position. Oh, God. Anyways, guys, thanks for listening. I'll be on Discord in 15 minutes. Rise, mankind, rise.